Hello students, as studied earlier, the solid state of matter is characterized by strong interparticle forces of attraction. So as a result, most solids have definite shape and volume, which change only slightly with change in temperature and pressure. The smallest constituent particles of various solids are atoms, ions, or molecules. So it means that matter exists in three physical states: solid, liquid, and gas. It is possible to change the state of matter by changing temperature and pressure conditions. We know this thing. A relatively low temperature, matter generally exists in solid state. If the temperature is raised to its melting point, solid gets sufficient energy to overcome intermolecular forces of attraction and it goes to liquid state, means it melts at that temperature. Means as the intermolecular forces are weakened, the solid can be converted into its liquid state. Now if the liquid is further heated to its boiling point, it gets sufficient energy to overcome completely the intermolecular attractive forces and it will go to gaseous state. So this is very preliminary things about the solid state. Up till now we have studied the gaseous state in 11th standard, and in solution chapter we studied about the liquid, and now we will be studying the solid state of the matter. So as we proceed further, if a gas is cooled and pressure on it is, if it is increased, it goes to liquid state. We know this thing, means if a gas is filled under pressure, it will be converted into liquid state. On further cooling and increasing the pressure, it goes to the solid state, means vice versa. Gas can be cooled and if it is stored under pressure, it will be converted into liquid state, and on further cooling and increasing the pressure, it will go to the solid state. The physical state of matter, it depends upon the intermolecular forces, means how strongly the molecules are bound to one another. It decides the physical state of the matter. And like the dipole-dipole interaction, dipole-induced dipole interaction, London forces or van der Waals forces, and the hydrogen bonding, these are the some type of interactions which always exist in between the molecules, and these molecular forces, intermolecular forces rather, will decide the physical state of the matter. The equilibrium between three states of matter can be represented like this: solid, when it is heated, converted into liquid; when it is further heated, can be converted into gas; and if the process is reverse, if the gas is cooled, it will be converted into liquid, and if it is further cooled, it will be converted into a solid state. So this is about the solid, liquid, and the gas. Now we know that these solids, they appear in two different forms. One is crystalline solid and another is a amorphous solid. So we'll talk about this crystalline solid state and the amorphous solids also. So as the name suggests, crystalline means it has got regularity and periodicity in their arrangement of constituent particles in crystalline solids. The ordered arrangement of the particles extends over a long range. These crystalline solids, they have got sharp melting points also. One more thing that is of much importance, that is these crystalline solids are anisotropic in nature. It means that the properties like refractive index, thermal and electrical conductivity are different in different directions. So it arises because the composition of solid changes with direction. So I'll be explaining this with some diagram here. What are these? anisotropic solids. So this property is shown by the crystalline solids only. Now when you arrange these particles in particular patterns, so as they are in a fixed regular pattern and they show this pattern over a long range. So if this is the one particle, this is the another one. Means if you're considering crystalline solid, if you take this as an ionic solid, this is cation, suppose this is anion, then again repetition with the same cation, anion, then cation, anion. If you arrange in this particular fixed pattern, below this you can write here the same pattern you can repeat here exactly below this, the hollow circle and the encircled or the thick circle. Again you repeat this. If you are drawing this way, you can see there is some fixed pattern for these constituent particles. So if this pattern is there, and when you are saying these are the anisotropic, means if you measure the properties in different directions, you will get different arrangements here. If you proceed this way, there is the pattern is that this cation, anion, cation, anion, cation, anion, or the hollow circle, and the this is the uh, rigid circle here. This is hollow circle. This is rigid circle. So if you go this way, you will follow this pattern. Now instead, if you go this way, you will see that all the rigid circles are over there. If you measure the properties in this direction, you will say all the hollow circles are there. It means this crystalline solid, though they are showing the same pattern or they are having the fixed pattern of the constituent particles array, but if you measure some physical properties, they will differ in different directions. If you go this way, there will be change in the pattern, and this property is called as the crystalline solids are anisotropic in nature. Now the further, if you go further here, about the amorphous solids. So the constituent particles are randomly arranged. They do not have long range order structure, means they are having short range order structure here. So this is about the amorphous solid. They do not show any long range order structure, rather they are having the short range order structure here. Next, they are isotropic in nature. The physical properties, they are independent of the direction of the measurement. They exhibit same magnitude for any property in every direction. So what does it mean actually? This is about the crystalline solid. Those are anisotropic in nature. Now if you arrange this for the amorphous one, means if you are taking the constituent particle this way, like this, they will show some pattern for some short range. They will have this pattern for the short range only. After that, there might be some irregularities, means you will see like this. They will arrange themselves like this. This pattern may be like this. So you can see that there is no fixed pattern over here. So this is true with the amorphous one. So this is for the amorphous solids here. Now, if you want to arrange, if you want to measure the physical properties like refractive index and all, electrical conductivity and all, you can see some fixed pattern up to this range. After this, there is no fixed pattern. This is a mixing thing. All the constituent particles, they are not arranged in a fixed particle. So there cannot be any fixed pattern for this, and due to this, there won't be any change with the physical properties if you measure in any direction. So means these physical properties like refractive index and conductivity, these properties of the amorphous solid, they will not show any fixed particular pattern, or they are independent of the direction of the measurement. So they are independent, and such thing is called as they are isotropic in nature, because there is no fixed pattern of the constituent particles in amorphous solids. So they are independent. So if the physical properties are independent of the direction, those solids are called as isotropic in nature. I mean, they are same in all the directions, means iso, same. Whereas in case of crystalline solid, there are anisotropic, means if you measure in this direction, they will have different value. If you go this way, they will have different value. If you go this way again, they will have different values, because the pattern will go on changing. This is not true with this. This is the mix match condition. So if you go anywhere, you will have the same property, same magnitude for this refractive index and conductivity. That is what we call as isotropic and anisotropic in nature. Now the next, we'll see isomorphism. So two or more substances having same crystal structure are said to be isomorphous. For example, sodium form NaF, MgO, second pair NaNO3, CaCO3. These are the isomorphous pair. What is this isomorphism? Means two or more substances having same crystal structure. Means the crystal structure for this NaF and magnesium oxide, those are same. In case of this NaNO3 and CaCO3, they are having the same crystal structure. So such pairs are known as isomorphous pairs. We'll be studying this crystal structure in detail in due course of time. They are having same atomic ratio, that is, they are having 1:1 ratio, means one sodium atom, one fluoride atom. And here in case magnesium and oxygen, one magnesium atom and one oxygen atom here. In case of NaNO3 and CaCO3, they are having this 1:1:3 constituent atoms. The ratio of this constituent atom is 1:1:3. Here one sodium, and here one nitrogen and three oxygen. Here calcium, one carbon and three oxygen atoms are there. So such pairs are called as isomorphous pairs. This second pair, that is K2SO4 and K2SiO4, or Cr2O3 and Fe2O3. In both the cases, they are having the atomic ratio as 2:1:4. 2 potassium, 1 sulfur and 4 oxygen. Same here. 2 potassium, 1 selenium and 4 oxygen atom. Here there are 2 chromium and 3 oxygen atom. There are 2 Fe and 3 oxygen atoms. So the atomic ratio remains the same in both the cases here. So these are the pairs, those are called as isomorphous pairs. Now what is this polymorphism? A single substance that exists in two or more forms of crystalline structures is said to be polymorphous. So polymorphic forms are also called as allotropes. We have heard this word many times. We are very much in knowledge about the carbon allotropes. So carbon is having allotropes like diamond, graphite and fullerene. So they exist in two or more forms of crystalline structure. So the crystalline structure of this diamond, graphite and fullerene, though they are made of carbon atoms, but the crystal structure of those will differ, and such things are known as allotropes. Calcium carbonate is exists in two allotropic forms, that is calcite and aragonite. Silica, that is alpha quartz, beta quartz and cristobalite. These are the allotropic forms of silica. Sulfur, it exists in rhombic and monoclinic sulfur. We are aware about this. This is about the polymorphism and isomorphism. These are some of the introductory part about this solid state. Now the further, this crystalline, we are more concerned about the crystalline solid, because we will be studying solid state, lattice point, lattice, what are lattice and different arrangement, packing efficiency and all. So for this, we are more interested in crystalline solid. We will be studying because they are having the regular pattern. We want to study this regular pattern, how they are arranged, how they are packed together, what are their crystal structure. So we'll be studying this crystalline solid. So these crystalline solids, they can be further divided as ionic solids, covalent network solids, third is molecular solid, and fourth is metallic solid. Now, as the name suggests, the constituent particles are charged ions in case of ionic solids. In case of covalent network solids, the constituent particles are atoms which are bound with the covalent bonds to one another. In case of molecular solid, the constituent particles are molecules. And in case of metallic solids, the constituent particles, they are bonded to one another by metallic bond. So we'll study them one by one. In case of this ionic crystals, the cations and anions are held by the electrostatic force of attraction. So you can summarize all these things comparatively. We can put this thing. So in case of the ionic solids, the particles of unit cell, those are cations and anions here. Whereas in case of covalent network solids, the particles are covalently bonded atoms. These are molecular solids with the monoatomic or polyatomic molecules. And the metallic solids, these are the metallic ions in sea of electrons. I'll be explaining this further. What is the sea of electrons? Now the interparticle forces, those are held together by the electrostatic forces of attraction in case of ionic solids. Here there are covalent bonds. In case of molecular solids, these are the London forces or dipole-dipole interactions or hydrogen bonds. Okay. In case of metallic solids, the attraction between the cation and mobile valence electrons. So these are very much related to the metals. We know that we call them as a metal because they are having the tendency to lose an electron. So those lost electron, they form the sea of electron, and these metal atoms, they are floating in the sea of electrons, and these electrons are responsible for conduction of electricity. So this is what we call as the sea of electrons, that is the conduction of electricity. It is nothing but the flow of electrons. Now, what about the hardness? These are ionic solids, they are hard and brittle. Covalent network solids, they are very hard. If you look at the example of covalent network solid, that is a diamond. Diamond, this is the hardest of all the solids. Then in case of molecular solid, they are comparatively softer than these covalent network solids. So you might have some confusion in covalent network solids and molecular solids. Remember, this covalent network solid, in case of this covalent network solids, these are the atoms which are linked by the continuous system of the covalent bonds. And in case of the molecular solids, here the molecules are, or the unbonded single atoms, both can be there, of the same substance are the constituent particles. And the forces which are acting between them, these are the London forces or dipole-dipole interaction or the hydrogen bond. Whereas in case of covalent network solids, the covalent bond exists between them. This is the main difference between this covalent and the molecular solids. Now coming back here, these metallic solids are very variable from soft to very hard. They can be soft also, like sodium metal. This is very soft metal. Okay, and there are many hard metals. We are having the knowledge of this. Melting points, it ranges from 6,000 degrees Celsius to 30,000. So ionic solid, they are having very high melting point. Covalent network solid also, they are having high melting points. Whereas this molecular solid, so you can differentiate this by this covalent and molecule. They are having from low to high also. Means compared to this covalent network solids, this molecular solids, they melt at comparatively low temperature. And these metals, they are having the wide range of metallic solids from -390 to 34,000 degrees Celsius. So these melts at a range of the temperature. Then the next, thermal and electrical conductivity. These are poor electrical conductors in solid state, but when they are dissolved in water, they are good conductors. like sodium chloride. So if this sodium chloride is melted, this can be a good conductor, but when it is in a solid form, it can't conduct electricity. Even when it is dissolved in water, you know this process, that is electrolysis. It carries electricity. But this covalent network solid, they are poor conductors, and the exception is graphite and diamond. Now remember, everything has exception. There is always an exception to the rule. So though these covalent network solid, these are the poor conductors, but there is a very good exception to this, that is graphite and diamond. Both are, this graphite is a good conductor of electricity. So graphite rod is used in many reactions. You'll be studying this in electrochemistry. Diamond is a good conductor of it. We know this thing. This is the hardest of the covalent network solid. Molecular solid, these are the poor conductor of heat and electricity. And metallic solid, as we know, good conductor of heat and electricity both. Now the example, NaCl, CaF2, this is for ionic solid. Diamond, silica, there are many more also. Molecular solid like ice and benzoic acid. Now look at this diamond and ice. Here there are only carbon atoms. Here there is ice. These are the water molecules bonded to one another. So while remembering the difference between covalent and molecular solid, you just keep in your minds diamond and ice. That will be easier for you to differentiate this covalent and molecular solid. Now metallic solids, sodium, this should be small, yeah. Magnesium, copper, U means gold, all these are the metallic solids. So the MCQs can be asked based on this, the properties of the different types of solids here. Now this is about the classification of crystalline solids. So crystalline solids, remember, ionic solids, covalent network solid, molecular solids, and metallic solids. Thank you.